In January of 2011, fiery suicides shattered the uneasy calm of marketplaces across the Middle East and North Africa. It all began when a 26-year-old street merchant named Tariq Mohammed Bouazizi was ejected from the marketplace by the authorities and set himself on fire. In little more than 2 weeks, he would die of his wounds and set off a series of revolutions that would become known as the Arab Spring. Over the next 2 months, 63 other small businessmen, excluded from the economic mainstream, set themselves on fire, and protests swept the region. Within 2 years, 4 governments would fall, and the entire Middle East would plunge into an era of painful change.
200 million Arabs on the street, protesting against the status quo. And either these people, who are the overwhelming majority, because we're talking in hundreds of millions, are included, or you're looking for trouble.
Most observers see only a fundamental battle between conservative Islamists and those who seek a more liberal and secular government. And that battle most certainly exists. But the ongoing events of the Arab Spring are driven by a much more fundamental force: the basic right of all people to earn a living free of government corruption and repressive regulations. Outraged by decades of exclusion, tens of thousands of small entrepreneurs had finally lit the fires of the rebellion. Joined by millions more who, for years, have been locked out of the economic system, they are the unlikely heroes of the Arab Spring. And they have now become a mighty force for change. Tariq Mohammed Bouazizi and those that followed him in his desperate suicidal act became the martyrs who set off a seemingly endless series of revolutions. Bouazizi's fiery image became the icon of protest for the excluded. To Hernando de Soto, the Arab Spring is not an issue of religion.
There's something called the global economy. It's creating prosperity. And Bouazizi and his like have not been included. They feel excluded. This is what it's about.
Mohammed Ben Abbas Macaulay is another small businessman. So alienated by the authorities, he also attempted to take his life. He survived, but remains bitter.
حاولت بكل الطرق باش ناخذ فهمتني حقي في المجتمع كشغل يعطوني قرض نخدم بيه يعطوني ألف حاجة ما لقيتش.
In desperation, millions like Macaulay and Bouazizi, working to make a living, yet locked out of the social and economic system by Byzantine laws and massive corruption, took to the streets. Almost overnight, protests had spread throughout the region, and there seems to be no end in sight.
This is major change. 200 million Arabs who work outside the legal system. That's what they have in common. They work outside the legal system. It's a revolution. To me, the message is quite clear. The Arab Spring is a huge shout for inclusion. There's no other way to explain the fact that so many people came out behind him and that the first reaction of government was to put him on a postage stamp because he symbolized something.
He was an instant hero. The Tunisian government not only put his image on a postage stamp, they created a monument to him and his cart. Yet millions of people like Bouazizi remain locked out of the social and economic system. Tunisia's small, elite formal sector operates under a unified legal system that connects them to the globalized world. These people have access to all the tools of the developed world: credit, property titles, and registered legal business entities such as the corporation. It is the kind of business law that enables them to make legally recognized and enforceable transactions with people anywhere. But the overwhelming majority of Tunisian citizens are prohibited from operating legally by a complex and corrupt bureaucracy, and they must work without these tools. The result is something called extra-legality. They are stuck working extra-legally in an all-cash, no-credit world. They are doomed to poverty, locked into businesses they can never grow.
Extra-legality or informality is the condition of people who basically conduct business on the margins of the law, which means not illegality, that you're doing something against the law, that you're criminal, you're just not working within the legal system.
Small businessmen like these are extra-legal. Because of overly complicated regulations and excessive fees, these small entrepreneurs cannot afford the time, nor do they have the money to register their businesses with the government. They want to be part of the legal system. They just can't. Untapped resources could at last bring a future of prosperity and hope out of a life of hardship and oppression. This is the economic promise of the Arab Spring.